Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a good weekend and was enjoying October and the October weather. If you want rain, you need to go to Philadelphia. They've had it for about 3 days now, and I don't think it's going to put anything soon. I want to first welcome our two newest directors, Gina Lawrence, who's going to be the new director at Chanute, and Beth Inwood is returning as director at Hamilton. So those are our two newest directors. I also just have a couple of announcements that I want to make from the last SEK executive board meeting. The first one is that we will be interviewing this week for a full-time tech assistant. That job has been open forever. We thought about making it part-time, and the board wisely recommended that we keep it at full-time. So we are going to be doing that. And so that means if you've been holding back on contacting Jake or Dave for any reason, you don't need to. You can go ahead and get your name on the list for a visit, for whatever work you need done by them, whatever help you need. So they'll be back. That department will be back to full staff, hopefully soon. I also and Cindy Chalker from Moran, as you hopefully know, she is also working as our Talking Books person, our special needs consultant. So if you have any questions about Talking Books or would like to schedule a visit with her, she is traveling and bringing updated cards, and she can bring the updated Talking Books display materials, just in case you or anybody in your community has questions about Talking Books. And that includes all ages. I think we sometimes forget that Talking Books is for school age children too, who have any problems with their eyesight, any problems with reading disabilities that might benefit from the Talking Books program. And I learned this when I had to be the interim special needs consultant there for a little bit. The new system is called BARD, and it is online, where if anybody has a smartphone, they can get the Talking Books delivered to their phone for free. So you can use the big clunky machine with the cartridges if you want to, but that's no longer necessary. And I think not everybody knew that. So if you have questions about that, reach out to Cindy. Also at the board meeting, Jason, I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit. They approved the policies, the Seek and Find policies and participation agreement that the committee, thank you, worked on very hard. The one thing that the board requested that we add was a waiver option. So just like with state aid, if there's a part of the participation agreement that is a struggle and you have justification for not meeting one of the criteria, there's going to be a waiver process that you can go through. And I wanted to also share, I'm going to put it in the chat, from the in-service. Thank you, Amy. The presenters who did the intellectual freedom workshop shared out the full PowerPoint presentation, the full script, and 4 slide decks with different scenarios. And I used that last night with my IOLA board to do trustee training with them as part of the board meeting. And it worked pretty well. We had some good discussion. Having that script made it pretty easy. You got to tweak it a little bit. It's meant for employees rather than for board members, but with a little bit of tweaking that worked well. So I just wanted to share that in the chat and let you know that if you, like me, needed to get that trustee training out of the way, because not all my trustees are going to be able to go to our trustee training that Amy talked about, this is an option for you. And the last 2 announcements, the equipment competitive grant is due on the 10th. So if you have not already reached out to Jake and Dave to get requests, requirements, recommendations, costs, whatever, we haven't had that many apply yet. So I don't know if folks are just kind of waiting to the last minute. But that's $35,000 of our budget that's for this competitive grant. So I do recommend and strongly urge you to consider applying, even if it's just for new monitors. You know, the new monitors are more energy efficient, a quieter receipt printer for new computers. If you want to, you know, don't do robots and 3D printers. And I wanted to, this one we're wrapping up with. I wanted to see who worked with their county to apply for a seed grant. Okay, so Anderson County got one, or you, okay. Greenwood, Elk County, didn't you guys do one? Okay. And Allen County did it dry. Iowa's too big, we didn't call. All right, so not everybody, but enough. And I wish you all well. How did, oh good, Coffee County too is great. How did you find the process? Were you able to work with somebody like an economic development person?
In Anderson County, we worked with the economic development person, Jennifer from Kincaid, applied for her library. I applied for my library. The Kincaid City applied for something, and then we have a new nonprofit daycare center going in Garnett. And so our economic development person, we all sort of put in our narrative, and then her and I sat down one day, not soon enough, but one day, and put it all together. Kind of, it was kind of a little bit clunky, I thought. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, Connie. I felt like they asked for the same thing more than once, kind of like, of course, she hadn't really had the time, and neither had I, to sit down and look all the way through the grant. You know, we were just kind of doing the part that we knew we had to do. And so when it was kind of like, and Jennifer doesn't even know this, I don't think, but like, because the library part, there were two of us, I had to take and kind of combine, separate but combine our narratives. We only got 500 words between the two of us. So because it wouldn't let us have two narratives for the library part of it, if that makes sense. That was kind of awkward. And I tried really hard to be good to you, Jennifer. I tried to not slash your narrative too much, but so that was kind of an issue. And it was a little clunky, but maybe it was just because it was the first year, and we were working with other people's stuff, like all the stuff that they were wanting. We had to kind of work that in. It was just a little odd, I thought, but we'll see. Hopefully we get it, I hope. And I really appreciate the economic development person helping, because that was, I felt like we worked well together, but it did take several hours one day to do that. So
I think that was one of their tertiary goals, was to get sort of those partnerships developed. So I think that's good. How is it for you guys, Connie?
I think the frustration is there was such a short turnaround time in all this, and big city approach. I'm not sure they understand how rural counties work. So some difficulties there. We lucked out. The lady who writes grants for the city here, who's been very successful. We reached out to the city, and they had a plan to apply under the community vibrancy part, in keeping with the project that our Greenwood County libraries have for next year. All four of us were a part of this originally, and then Sue called, and Fall River City was applying, and part of theirs was the library, so they had to pull out of our part. But I feel good because the city hit the community vibrancy, and we had 3 libraries in 3 different locations in our county. So I felt we did a good job of hitting those criteria, and each one of our libraries asked for something different. We focused because because of our children's library situation, we weren't really eligible to do the family engagement grant with Tammy, but that's what we focused on for this. And then I know Madison was doing technology. And so it was very, very clunky. And yes, the limit on the narrative and stuff, we had so many phone calls and emails going back and forth trying to compact everything between all of us. But we'll see. The way they described it in the webinar, where they were saying, it sounded like they encouraged only one application from each county. Well, if you have 12 different people in the county wanting a piece of the pie, who decides what goes in the grant? So I think there were some elements of it that in theory sounded good, but in practicality were not very, very good. But we'll see.
I just thought government at its finest.
Yes. Yeah. But hey, it's free money. Well, not free because somebody's paying for it, but it's an opportunity. I think the part that was really frustrating is when they talked about, because they talked about construction, and unless you were shovel ready and already had something on the radar, there's no way you can get your bids and everything else. And so that part of it, I'm not sure what the rush was in that sense, but we'll see.
They'll ask for that kind of feedback. So thank you guys for sharing it. And we can get that to them if this ends up being a project that is funded again for next year, and it's something that we can think about or have ready. All right.
So I applied for it, but I could not get a hold of anybody in my county to see if they were
Doing anything?
submitting it or anything. So I just kind of collaborated with my city and did the grant for, building on to the library. But yeah, I agree. It didn't really give you enough time to, get formal bids and everything. And I worked a lot of hours trying to write that. I feel like it was kind of not really all over the place, just kind of repeating and then not really having enough room for other information and stuff. But
Hopefully you'll be the only one, then you get it.
that would be awesome.
Oh, did you need to? Yeah, your hand up.
Sharon, did you call me Kay? This is Kay
Yeah.
Parker. I'm sorry, you kind of just cut out just a little bit there. We also applied for construction for the building on of the meeting room and enlarging our kids section. Luckily, I personally didn't have to do it. Our board secretary took it up on herself to do it, and she also reached out to the economic development here in Lynn County and got some help from them. So all we can do is just cross our fingers and say our prayers and see what happens.
Oh, cool.
Did they give a specific date that they were going to announce the awards, or was it just sometime this month? Do you know?
I'd have to go back. Well,
I mean, I can look it up too. I just thought maybe.
well, I would say, let me look that up for you, but the notebook that's in is lost somewhere in Chattanooga.
They said somewhere towards the end of October. There wasn't a specific date mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just going to say that April and I applied for Montgomery County, and it was a hard process because she is wanting to do construction. So she had to hurry up and get a bid. And I contacted my city. They did not want to do it. Her city administrator helped her and got us in contact with a woman in Chanute that helped us well, she did the grant part. We just gave her the information. Her chamber decided to do it on their own, and Tyro possibly was going to get in on it too, but I never heard officially if they did or not.
Okay.
But we worked really hard together to get all the ducks in a row.
Well, then, so you worked with a grant writer. That was a good idea.
Yeah, that again, that was Cherryville City Administrator that April had talked to and got in touch with.
So, and it says, so Coffee County applied for furniture for all their branches. And then Ware and Galena and the Ware, I say that wrong, your senior center applied. So awesome. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good coverage across the county. Julie, what did you guys? I know you did it. Didn't you write it for your whole county?
I did it for signage for the town, so that the mural kind of thing. I did it for our grocery store, the Erie Market. Got them a lot of equipment for the market so they can be a little more successful. And then I did for the library here materials to make an early childhood area in the children's room. So, and got it all done. I'm not entirely sure that somebody else in the county didn't apply as well, because I tried to get, I talked to Thayer, and they said that they had a board member that was doing it. I tried to get a hold of her to include it, because we could have put it on there probably, but they didn't get it back to me. So I went ahead and just sent it in. We'll just take our chances, see what happens. I don't know.
Well, congratulations on all of you for getting through the process. I'm tickled pink, and I really do hope that y'all get your money. That would be awesome. And then we're here to help with the next stage. It's always fun to do construction or buy new furniture. So yeah, that's when the work starts, as we know from ARPA. And that's it for my announcements. I'll hand it over to the consultants, and they can talk about their fun and exciting activities and information they want to share. Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. One of the things on my list, Sharon already reminded you, the deadline for the competitive grant for technology and equipment is October 10th. I want to remind you that it is a 25% match. So that means 25% of the total grant, whether that's in matching cash funds or in kind. We do in kind, correct? I think services.
Maybe
Yeah.
double check their wording.
I would allow it. So if you need help mathing the math, let us know. But again, that deadline is the 10th. So please apply. Take your money back. We're having trustee trainings this month. There's one next week on the 11th, and then another one on the 18th. Two on the 18th. I want to thank Connie and Eureka for hosting us, and Barb and Gerard for hosting us. Sharon, thanks for the Bath Center. I guess that's where we'll be in Iola. I think that next year we'll look at doing trustee training again, maybe try some different times, but look at doing it in the summer. I know that our librarians are busy during the summer, but that might not be the case for your trustees. So we'll try and sneak it in there next year. Again, that is the 11th and the 18th, and that's going to be a trainer from the Attorney General's office to talk about the Kansas Open Meetings Act. Important stuff. Let's see, coming up, we will have a Small But Mighty toward the end of the month. I'm scheduling that for October 24th. October is a really busy month for us, you guys. So hang in there with us. And also KLA is coming up later that week. Join us there. We're going to, we're all going to be there and want to see you. And some of us are presenting. And also there is a dine-about on Thursday evening. that KLA is putting on, and that is going to be your opportunity to hang out and have dinner with us. So we will be hoping to see you then. We'll put out more information about it so that you can get it in your calendar. But we hope to see you at KLA.
Who's going?
Who's
Is anybody?
Yeah, are you going to KLA?
No.
And
I'm
there's still time
going.
to register.
Jennifer from Kincaid's going.
Okay.
Awesome. And also, hey, y'all, we have continuing education grants. So if you need help funding your trip to Wichita or your registration, apply for a continuing education grant. We would love to help you get there.
Soon, there's a time limit. Yes.
Yes.
So
Needs to
far.
be at least 2 weeks ahead of time. So let's see, that would be, y'all gonna make me look at the calendar. Let's see. 1, 2. So please try and apply by the 12th or 13th. Can we accept them on the 13th? I think so.
Okay.
Apply by then, but please do, because we want you to be able to come, and there's still money in the coffers for this. So please come. That can also help pay for your sub. I'm pretty sure in most cases it can. So yes, Sharon has put the grants link in the chat. Tammy, what you got?
And just to relieve some angst that may have popped up because you heard grant application, the professional development grant application is not difficult, and it's certainly not like the one you just filled out. So give it a look if you haven't. And if you want to provide some feedback for it, I'm sure Sharon would love that as well.
Yeah. So I put in the chat the conference grant application, which if this is for conference, for in-state conference, it's a 1-page Google Doc. It's really not difficult.
Starting in November, we're going to try the library buildings interest group. You might have, I might have mentioned this last month at forum, that this is something that we're looking at. So this is for anyone who is interested in building maintenance or construction projects, or if you've done construction projects in the, recent-ish past and have things to share that might help your peers. We'll have speakers from the historic preservation department at the state, because I know a lot of y'all are in some Carnegie libraries. So hopefully this will be something that might help you. I know that there are a lot of folks who are looking at either construction or repairs. And my hope is that we'll be able to work some of that out and find some good resources for you, and you'll be able to get some support and good information from your peers as well. The resources from the fall in-service, Sharon mentioned the stuff from the Missouri Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee, and that is in the chat. All of it is available in a Google Doc, a Google folder that you can get to from our continuing education page. So on the left side of the page, it's the first link on the top, fall in service. Later on, it'll be a little thing in niche, so you can always find it there if it gets lost on the web page. And we'll also put a bit.ly link in the newsletter. But just want to bring that to your attention. Resources for all of the sessions are going to be in that Google folder. And I think that's all I've got. If something else pops up, we'll figure it out then. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Dave, did you want to talk real quick about the 3D printer?
Oh, well, Garnett graciously donated to SEK their little 3D printer that I'm going to get working on and hopefully do some tech days coming up. It'll be probably this spring, depending on how harsh this winter is going to be. And then excited about the new tech guy, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to be joining us, and we'll be up full of staff. And yeah, going to get some tech days going on this spring. And I'm not actually sure. I didn't actually have a chance to really look at it. It's a small one, but it should be pretty interesting to get it running and show you guys what 3D printing can do. So that's about it for me.
I think Jake is looking forward to playing with that too, so. Dave has it at home right now.
I'm just happy that somebody that's excited about it now has it, because I could never muster up a lot of excitement because I don't have time to learn that stuff.
Yeah, so Coffee County has Da Vinci. Samantha, what do you guys have at Parsons?
A broken 3D printer.
Mm,
It's a Tinkerly? No. Starts with a T. It's from Canada. The same brand that the state library sent out to all the regional libraries, and the regional libraries sent them to different public libraries. Pittsburgh Public has the same one we purchased. But we're looking at a few different options to replace ours. We miss having our 3D printer. And so we're looking at ones where, like, they build from the bottom up, and it goes around and around and around until your image is built. Well, we're looking at one that either is water soluble. So when you have an image that has a lot of supports, because you have an arm or a hand up here, you have to have supports to hold it so it'll start. One that will dissolve all of those little supports instead of having to pick them off. We're looking at one that has a heated bed. That way that the filament will actually stick better. One that's self-leveling, because with a 3D printer, that's one of the biggest issues, is if your bed is not leveled perfectly, it's very easy for your image to be off a little bit. And one that auto shuts off. A lot of the 3D printer, at least the one that we had, if the filament got stuck or if it got off track, it would just continue to print, and for the next 12 hours or however long the print was. And so we're looking at some different options for a few different 3D printers.
Well, and Dave, you said the one that you own, that's your personal.
Yes, that's it.
Sorry. Yeah, so you can keep track of it from home.
Oh yeah, the one that I have personally at home, it's a Creative Ender 3D printer, and it has an option to put a Raspberry Pi on it to connect to it, and so you can remotely check in on your printer, and you can actually connect cameras to it to see how the 3D printing is going. And if it goes off track, like Samantha was saying, if something happens, if the filament runs out and it keeps going, or if something happens and it starts getting a rat nest of PLA filament, then you can remotely shut it off. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, when we did our tours and we saw what they had 3 3D printers at Olathe, and all 3 of them were going, and they said that they were always going. I mean, people could come in, book it for the end of the day, let it run overnight, come back in the morning. And like Mary said, people were using this for their small business. It was the way the library could help entrepreneurs. They were printing things to sell, crafty things.
Yeah, we have a gentleman who he plays some form of game that has little tiny characters. And instead of purchasing them, he would, spend $20 and we'd have like a 24-hour print for him. But the problem with a lot of those is they have those little tiny, man, I just lost what I was going to say.
Yeah, those, you'd call them supports.
Supports, yeah, thank you. And sometimes it depends on where they were located, whether or not we'd have to reprint something. A nose would fall off, a finger would fall off, things like that.
Losing body parts, right? And left.
For real.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to the tech days. And for those of you that are like, what is a 3D printer? I have no idea what you're talking about. We will be able to demonstrate and you can see how utterly cool it is. I think people are using them for game pieces, but they're also using them to make prosthetics and some, I don't know, there's some amazing things being done with 3D printing.
Yeah, we have a lady who has or her joints and her fingers, whatever disease that is, they'll go crooked. And so she printed on the 3D printer the glow in the dark supports for him that she wears constantly. And she broke one the other day. She came in to reprint one and I had to tell her that our 3D printer was broke. And so people are using them for health reasons. It's really neat. It is a lot of work. We were very fortunate to be able to visit Pittsburgh Public, and James, their IT tech guy, showed us how to use it. He spent a whole day with us. But they're fun.
Cool. Thank you. Tammy.
Hello. So I don't have a whole lot going on, which is a good thing considering the year we've had. Oh man, it's been crazy busy. So I'm looking forward to fall if it ever gets here. We have Youth Services Forum coming up next Thursday, the 13th, 9:30 a.m. You're all welcome to join anytime we have those. And then we have Storytime Interest Group Friday, October 21st. We're moving into a period where I'm going to circle back around and check in with folks that may be implementing some of the new information that we've been providing over the last few months. So if that's something you are interested in, you're more than welcome to join that as well. Thanks.
How did the ALSC National Institute go?
It went well. I was at a group that presented 2 sessions, 1 session repeated, and there were 117 people total in those 2 sessions. So they were both standing room only. And we had several that came up and commented that it was the best session they had attended, which was unexpected and flattering and made me feel like I represented you all well.
What was the title of it again?
Overwhelmed by underserved communities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also want to mention that KLA, we will have our own rock stars. Andrea Soba and Bev Clarkson will be presenting a session about their experiences with a couple of other folks that I won't mention their names. We'll be presenting a session on their experiences with dealing with book challenges. So thank you both for doing that, and I look forward to that. I also had a request from Wichita Public, who is hiring a family engagement person, staff member, to have a roundtable discussion about family-placed libraries, which is what Iola Public has recently become, and what we're part of the family, the FEPL stuff, family engagement and public library stuff. And so I'll be conducting a roundtable discussion there as well. So if you're at KLA and interested in hearing about some of that or want to ask some questions, you're more than welcome to join us. I just want to let you know, you do not have to receive a FEPL grant to become a family-placed library, and you can implement components of that whole model if it is overwhelming for you, you can do it a little bit at a time. So if you're interested in building your early literacy, let me know. November is Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month, so it's a really good time to promote early literacy in your community. This year's book is Not a Box, and you'll be receiving that along with some suggestions and information, just like we do every year, coming up in the next few weeks. So we're keeping Erin busy and supporting our local post office as well as the Courier.
Thank you. Jason? You have anything?
I can remind everybody that we're less than a month away from our next Seek and Find users group. So if you have things you want to talk about at that users group, please get them to me. Had the International Co-op in Lawrence a couple weeks ago, survived that. It was nice getting together with our colleagues from all over the world. I think our furthest attendee was from Munich, Germany. So that was cool. As Sharon mentioned, the policies were approved by the board, so I've been updating things. I managed to crash my training site in that process, but I've got it back up and running better than ever now. It's got a search box. So if you're not aware, I'll put that in chat. That's this website. It's still a little rougher on the edges. I'm working on it. I think I'm caught up with everything, but if you need something from me and I haven't responded to you, please reach out again, because I was out a whole week and it was kind of like a dead zone for me. And I will be out not next week, but the following week at a conference, and then after that it's KLA. So I'll be talking with you guys in person. So that's it for me.
Kim or Brenda?
I don't really have anything. I do want to put a plug in, and if you're not the one that does the Courier stuff, make sure your people know, just check labels. We switched from Emporia to Parsons many months ago, and we just, again, had a rash of stuff. And what happens when you use that label, the address, of course, is the same. Just look for it saying Parsons in the upper corner instead of EMP, because when you use the Emporia label, it goes there and sets for weeks sometimes before it gets moved on out. So just run through your labels, make sure they're all saying Parsons at the top of the corner for us. And it's who else just said something? There's other libraries that, well, Allen County just had something on the listserv too, because they're in the same boat. Bronson, who else? Moran, maybe. The ones that are on our route would be the same way. So when you're bored, just go through the labels and make sure you have the right ones that are on the little spreadsheet.
We're never bored. We're always busy.
Some people might be.
Volunteer.
There's different levels of boredom. There's, you know, maybe you want a break from what you're doing that's really important, and you can do something not important. But it is important because it truly does hang stuff up. When you're wondering if why something's getting caught and late in transit. And I have more trouble with people outside of our system, but there are a few libraries I've noticed. It happens. You keep them and you think they're right because the address right, but that little code is important. That's about it.
Okay. All right. Round robin. What do you guys want to talk about? How are things going? Silence means everything is wonderful. And everybody's come back and your statistics are all back to 2019 levels, and you're thinking about expanding your services, right? Building on the momentum. Yes, Kay.
I'm just going to let you know that we have hired a girl to replace Sarah. She hasn't started yet. She's going to start on the 13th. I'm very excited. She has a lot of ideas, and I'm hoping we can implement some of them and, you know, see that our statistics start growing again. So I just, you know, I'm looking forward to her coming to work.
Sounds like fun. Gina,
With me being the new director, we are hiring for my previous job, which is the children's librarian assistant. So I had put it out on the listserv, but I'm not sure if people saw it. So I'm saying it now. We are going to be accepting applications through Friday. So if you were thinking about applying, make sure you get them in as quick as possible, and you can send them to me, jlawrence@chanute.org, or you can send it to our general email, which is publiclibrary@chanute.org.
yeah. Both Gina and Beth come into the office tomorrow for their tour and visit with all of us. So we look forward to speaking with you. Yeah, I saw the ad too, so it did come through.
How was ARSL for those of us that didn't get to go?
I did the pre-conference with Gail and the folks from SEKLS, not realizing they were the folks from SEKLS when I signed up for it. So it was really good. It was crucial confrontations, and they're going to be doing that at KLA too, and I would recommend it. It's just really good information. And there were two other talks that just blew my mind. One was a really good customer service presentation, very dynamic speaker. That one was recorded. So some people might have got to see that if they did the online version. And the second one was with the director of the public library in Moab, Utah. And they don't charge replacement fees because it's a barrier to service. They really looked at their mission, vision, and values and realized that some of the things that they were doing didn't fit that. And so I'm still reflecting to see what I want to take from that. But she's the first person the first library that truly did that realized that an $11 overdue book that replacement fee was eliminating people's ability to use the library. Whereas if it's behavior based, you get like warning 1, warning 2, warning 3. But if you lose a book, sorry, you're done. You can't use the library anymore because it's $10. Yeah, so she blew my mind. I mean, even $200 laptops, no replacement. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, those are my two takeaways. There were some others that were pretty good. I'm looking forward to KLA. I like to hear from us as well. Chatting was nice. The drive was fun. We got to Lucretia and Jennifer and Ariel and I did that 12-hour drive. So got to know each other better. That was fun. Connie, other than what were your takeaways?
I thought these were some of the best sessions that I had ever been to. I really concentrated on the sessions that dealt with strategic planning and maker spaces because we're going to repurpose an area for a maker space. I think for the first time, keeping in mind, virtual conference, and I didn't go last year, and the conferences before, when we were booked into Springfield and Burlington, those conferences were booked right before we had the explosive growth, and those venues were not large enough. This is the first time I felt we really had enough space to be comfortable, especially in COVID times. Only one session did I feel that we were kind of cramped, and they had round tables in there because we were actually doing activities. And so I was really pleased with that. I struggle with some of the other things. We network all the time. So I thought the networking lunch was kind of redundant. And I heard a lot of people say, we don't want to do buffets in COVID time. I've made my concerns known. I think we need to, our bylaws say we have a business meeting. And I want them to talk about membership numbers and things. And I'm struggling with the fact that we're not doing that at annual conference. And like I said, there have been some discussions in a messenger group about this, and the incoming officers know about this. So, but overall, I think it was really good. My drive was great. We had a lot of fun. Brought back COVID as a souvenir, unfortunately, but you know, we all kind of skated through and didn't have too many symptoms with that. But overall, I think it was a really good conference. So, and I really appreciated, because we are repurposing and doing a maker space in one of our areas, having the opening reception at the downtown public library where we could actually spend time in their maker space. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was my first Arsenal, so I enjoyed it. Cool.
I think one other thing, and again, this is something they've already heard about from a number of us. We did not have a big name author. And the conferences in the past, we've had Sandra Boynton, we've had Craig Johnson, we've had, that to me is that was a real lack at this conference, that there was not some sort of author, because many people can't afford to go to ALA or PLA and have exposure. And we have lucked out over the years with an amazing number of people who have taken pity on us, I guess, maybe, and been very reasonable in their fees. When we had Sandra Boynton in Burlington, she actually, her 2 grown sons came with her to help her out and kind of heckled mom from the audience. It was great. It was so much fun. And she was so personable and spent hours with us just visiting. And so I missed that. I know they're trying to change some things up. We'll see what the evaluations say and where they go from there.
Great.
Sharon, I was a few minutes late getting signed in this morning. Did anybody talk about our fall in service before I got here? I just wanted to say the venue was great. I think the food was great, but I think if you book them next year, you might talk to them about like a buffet type serving, because it took so long to get everybody served.
Well,
I think
we
go
did
ahead.
an hour and a half at annual meeting and an hour at in-service. So, that's an easy change we can make too, is just give more time for the sitting around and enjoying the meal and the fellowship part of it. And yeah, so we're going to read through the evaluations and appreciate candid feedback about it. And we're also we're trying to consider, we have to make changes next year because of the revenue neutral rate hearing, which we talked about before. So we have to really be kind of critical in determining how we want to move forward with annual meeting / in-service / do we do a directors institute? Do we do something completely different?
Well, one thing I thought, it was one of the better, meetings that we've had, that I've been to. But on a note that what Connie was saying about the author, one of the first in-service that I ever went to, it was years ago now, they had a local author, and then for one of the breakout sessions, she did a writing workshop, and I really enjoyed that. So, that's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate any feedback y'all want to give us. We're just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean we have to do it that way in the future. But if there are things that have been done that you especially appreciated, let us know. I think Amy mentioned last, we do want to do the bus tour again. Yeah, so that's always fun.
Looking at doing that in the spring, and I've seen that historically it's been in odd years in the spring, so we're due for one anyway.
There we go. I'm really sad that I missed Sandra Boynton. She is one of my absolute favorites. I mean, ever since all she did was greeting cards. She was my favorite greeting card person in the 80s. So, all right. Okay, well, anything else? You're surviving. Oh, I'll talk about IPL. So the woman who challenged sex is a funny word had submitted an article about it to the Iola Public Library or to the Iola Register, and the editor declined to print it. So she took it to Anderson County. What's your paper called, Andrea? So anyway, she took it to Andrea's local paper, and they printed it along with a little blurb about how she had taken it to our paper, and our paper declined to print it. It was an interesting article. She quoted the letter that I wrote in response to the challenge. But I don't think the article actually said that the board voted to leave the book where it was. So that kind of key piece of information of the process was not put in the article. Luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any feedback or questions about it since then. And I appreciate Andrea sent me a copy, so I was immediately able to send it to my staff on my board, and so they were aware of what was going on, just in case, because nobody likes to be blindsided. So thank you, Andrea, for sharing that. And yeah, she had quite fun. She's like, this time it's you in the paper, not me. So
It's the Anderson County Review. I won't tell you what I call it, but yeah, it was like a whole, I would guess if it all been on one page, it would have been an entire page, wouldn't you, Sharon? I mean, it was
a long,
it was like a whole page in a newspaper article. So very, and truthfully, I read enough about my stuff. I just kind of skimmed a little bit of it, and I thought, I don't need to know about Sharon's problems. I got enough of my own, but yeah.
So, but, and I thought it was, the argument was, she wasn't asking for it to be removed. She was asking for it to be moved. And I think that we talked a lot about that in the intellectual freedom workshop, that doing that is labeling, doing that is putting in a barrier, doing that is still censorship. So, it was, when I shared with the statistics with my board last night, you know, where it was 2018, there were 531 challenges, but in 2021 there were 1,500 challenges, so 1,000 more challenges processed by ALA in those 4 years. It's a trend.
I don't know if I knew this at the last one or not, but I've talked to the Ottawa librarian, well, emailed with the Ottawa librarian, and they, the last I knew, they have 14 books being challenged at their library, all LGBTQ books. They had somebody, they hired like a summer help girl, and like a few days after she started working there, she checked out like 25, all of their books on that subject. And I think it's one family, but it's a church, like a whole church has been, you know, so they've turned back in for at least 14 requests for the books to be reviewed. So I don't know how that's going. So I try to remember that whenever I get a little bit down about things around here, that I don't have, knock on wood, 14.
It could always be worse.
It could always be worse. Could be 14. There we go.
One of the things I'm noticing from some of the chatter on the listserv is people are asking, do you have a limit on the number of books that you can challenge as a patron at one time? And I'm just wondering, does anyone limit the number of books you can challenge at one time? Is that in your policies?
It's not in ours, I think.
No.
You know, normally it's so uncommon if you get one every 5 years. So it might be something people need to consider. But I mean, a reconsideration can be it can have negative intent, but sometimes it can have positive intent too. So it's, I think it would depend.
I agree with that. It's just some chatter that's happening right now. And in light of what Andrea just said, it might be something that you need to think about for practicality purposes, so that that is not the only thing that your staff is doing in their day, because it can quickly become overwhelming.
Even with one book, it feels like sometimes that's all your staff is doing in one day.
Yeah. And Andrea, did you guys go ahead and change your process? Did you eliminate that committee portion?
We did. We approved a new policy last month and took out the committee portion. So now it's more or less just like your policy, where it comes to the director reviews it, writes a letter, you know, hopefully with some input from the board. It's not stated in our policy that way necessarily, but in my case anyway, there would be input from somebody on the board. And then you send them the letter, and then if they want to go further, they have to take it to the board.
Okay.
So
we are currently revising our policy. And one of the things from the intellectual freedom at the in-service day, it talked about having your reconsideration form online available. That was one thing that I was thinking or leaning towards doing. But after that, I'm leaning towards not making it available online. What is everybody else's kind of consensus? Is your reconsideration form available online, or do they have to come to the front desk to receive it?
ours, right now, our policies are not online at all. That's something we're working on. Tegan and I have that in our plans, but I guess my first thought would be to leave the reconsideration form off, so that they would have to come and talk to somebody. You know, they're just not willy-nilly throwing them out there, because that's kind of the point, is your first step is to try to talk them out of doing the reconsideration form. But
Right.
That's just my thought.
Yeah, see, and I was thinking that whole complete transparency, but then one of the comments that were mentioned is when you get 15 reconsideration requests, it's more than likely because your reconsideration form was online. And so I really want to avoid that.
Yeah, it opens it up and makes it a lot easier for people to just put everything that's on that list of books that you should be challenging that was published nationwide, just to fill it out. And so again, think about your capacity of your staff. And Andrea is absolutely right. One of the first things that you should be doing as a staff person is talking about why the book is in the library and helping to educate people about public libraries and the services that we provide. And sometimes that can really lead to good conversations where they don't challenge your book. And so I think that's removing a piece of your process by putting your form online. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't put like a static form online where that could then be, they could look at it, but I'm not even sure I would recommend that.
Yeah. Ours is online, but I'm one to put everything online, because then everybody can find it. So I'll have to look at that. Part of that presentation were those 5 steps. So if somebody does come and has a expression of concern, a challenge, or a reconsideration request, to listen, to empathize, to advocate, the part that Tammy was just talking about. Explain that the library is here for everyone. We have something for everyone, and we represent everyone, and then redirect them. That might not be your cup of tea. How about this instead? And then let the board know, and let the director.
Did anyone put up a banned book or challenged book display? And how well did that go? We did. Actually, I had a really good conversation yesterday with a school board lady. And I know I'm really struggling with words today. Anyway, she walked by the display and she's like, why is Where the Wild Things Are on that? And so we had a conversation about that. And then I said, did you know that even Hop on Pop is a challenge book? And she goes, what? And so we talked about why it was. And she's like, my children know that book word for word. And so it was just a really good conversation. I had a couple patrons who were like, well, that book shouldn't be in the library. But it was really passive and dismissive, and it was just a comment and they walked off. But I was just wondering how everybody else's displays went.
We did a full round display. First thing you come in, had all different ages, empty easels, a lot of empty easels. So the books were getting checked out, which we thought was really great. I put sex in the book. Sex is a funny word out. I was like, oh, here's one. And put it on the display. No feedback trickled back to me. Some people were like, really? You know, that same like, why is this on here? It's banned book. So it was gratifying that books were being taken. It was being seen. I saw people like looking at it, and that books were being checked out from it. So we will not shy away from it. Connie?
Yeah, we had a display up using the graphics, the bird cage, the birds this year, where people could come in and get their picture taken. And we had something on social media every day. And Where the Wild Things Are was one of the books people had said, we don't understand why. And we have explanations of the books on display of why they've been challenged. And the feedback we got, most people said, that is so sad, that is wrong that they're being challenged. And a couple people asked for a list of what we had that was banned, which we don't have, because nothing's been banned here. And of course it changes from library to library, but I think for the most part, it got a little education out there and got positive reviews from most people.
Great.
Jennifer said Caney had a display. How'd it go in Caney, Jennifer?
No one said anything. I mean, we didn't have a big elaborate display. We had books on the table and explanations beside them why they were banned. Nobody said anything.
Did you see people browsing it, and did some of the books get checked out?
Yes.
Awesome. Passive work.
Good or bad, we chose not to stir the waters this year. We felt there'd been enough talk about books being banned in Garnett, so we just sort of did not. We have done them in the past. We've had displays up in the past, and we will in the future, but this year was just, we didn't think we could handle anymore. So we didn't.
Names. Okay. Well, it's after 10, so I want to respect everybody's time and say thank you for attending. We did record this, so if I'll send it out as an email attachment in case anybody's missed it or wants to hear what we talked about. Yeah, Jennifer?
Were you going to send out the slides from the intellectual freedom?
I can do that. I can put it in that same email, but yeah, there's Amy had mentioned, and I put it in the chat. There's a Google Doc that you can get to from the continuing education page of sekls.org. It's the very top link on the left-hand side. It says fall in service, and it has the slides, well, that web page from Missouri Intellectual Freedom Committee and some other resources from the in-service. But if I'm going to be sending out an email, I can put as many hyperlinks in it as I want. So.
Okay, well, I usually do these meetings on an iPad where I don't have the ability to save everything that happens in chat. So
okay,
that would be easier for me.
All right, no, not a problem. I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We had a good group today. Let us know if there's anything else we can help with.